All right, we've talked about major chords and minor chords. We've talked about diminished chords. Those are all chords that are natural in the scale. They happen, the word is diatonic, meaning that you don't have to change any of the notes of the scale, and they just happen naturally. There is one chord quality that I've not talked about called augmented. And normally when you use the word augmented, you're implying something is made bigger, correct? So that is something that happens with this chord. I'm going to show you some stuff about augmented chords. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into diminished chords, and I'm going to switch views so you can see my hands. Here we are. C major scale. We've talked about it. We got major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished, major. So here's the deal. Augmented chords don't happen diatonically in the scale. Sorry that the camera's shaking. Okay. So as we discussed, major chords are a major third on the bottom, minor third on the top. Minor chords are a minor third on the bottom, major third on the top. A diminished chord is a minor third and a minor third. Augmented, I'll give you one guess. It's a major third and a major third. Okay, so that is an augmented chord. I don't think you can even play any augmented chords without at least one black key. It's not coming to me if that's the case. So augmented chords are useful, like if you have so the word chromatic means moving by half steps. Okay, so say you have something that you want to move in a chromatic way melodically. Let's just take that as an example. So there are so many different ways you could harmonize it. It just depends on the psychology that you want. Say you want to have kind of like this pedaling bass note. That creates tension. So in order to do that, we had A minor over C / chord, or it's an inversion. Go back and find my video about that. I explained it. And then now, C augmented, C major, and then that would be like a C sharp 11, or no, so like it's just got the sharp 4 in it, or you could redefine it. But anyway, we're not going to get into the deep theory of how to define this, but that's one way you can harmonize it. You could also harmonize it as like an F to an F minor to a C major to a D major. Same thing. But do you hear how the psychology of that is different? It's brighter. Well, it's got a little melancholy to it. It's so F major to F minor to the C major to the D major. That feels like more of a cadence point. It's not as suspenseful. So you could have that over the C too. The F major to the F minor over the C to the C major, and then it just goes up a step to the D in the bass. That's another way. That's like halfway, meeting it halfway. So you see there are so many possibilities, but augmented chords, the cool thing is, there's your major third and there's your major third. Well, guess what? If you go major third, you're back on a C at the top. So one augmented chord inverted just keeps giving you the same notes. So really, there is C augmented, which is C, E, G sharp. Then there's D flat, D flat, F, A. Then there's D, F sharp, A sharp. And then there's E flat, G, B natural. But then look what happens. We're back on E, G sharp, C. We're at the same one. So there are only 4 different combinations of notes that make up an augmented triad. And then you start recycling it again. You start to recycle it. It also works well with the whole tone scale. you know, where you're just moving up whole steps. So that's augmented. Now, the thing I wanted to say about diminished is we talked about diminished triads. If you add, so diminished triads can have either, if you add the next note up, which is a seventh, it can either be the one that's a whole step down from the root, or you could have, that's called half diminished, or you could have all minor thirds. So if it's half diminished, it's minor third, major third. If it's fully diminished, minor third, minor third, minor third. So that's a fully diminished 7 chord. So again, sorry, C, E flat, G flat. Technically they call it B double flat, but we're just gonna call it A because it's just too hard on the brain. Then you move up a half step. That's the D flat one. That's D. But now look, we're back on the, well, yeah, so yeah, we're on the E flat. We got all the same notes as this one. So there's only 1, 2, 3 sets of notes that make up the fully diminished 7th chords, and then we start recycling it again. So there are only 3. And then it's just a matter of which note is on the bottom. But it's all the same. This is C fully diminished 7, E flat fully diminished 7, G flat fully diminished 7, A fully diminished 7. They're all the same chord. Same thing with augmented, C augmented, E augmented, G sharp augmented. There are only so many combinations. Isn't that weird? So that's a little deep dive into augmented and diminished chords and some options of how to use them. All right, hopefully that got your wheels turning, got your juices flowing. I don't know why I hate it every time I hear the word juices come out of my mouth. I'm going to try to not use that word anymore. Anyway, hopefully this inspired you to try something new. And really, there's only one kind of chord you should never, ever use. You want to know what kind that is? It's the kind that sounds bad.